Donald Trump just finished giving an interview with influential financial expert Dave Ramsey. Nathan Wade, Fani Willis's ex-lover, no wait, current lover, whatever it is, has apparently gone missing in Georgia, and NASA has just released brand new stunning footage of Hurricane Helene, which is now a Category 4 hurricane, from the International Space Station. We'll get to all of those stories and much more in today's video, but first we take a look at Trump Tower, where President Trump held a press conference and had this to say about Nancy Pelosi.
But they went in there, and everyone knows they threatened the 25th Amendment. They threatened him with the 25th Amendment. They said, Joe, you're going to get out. And Nancy Pelosi led the charge. And Nancy Pelosi has a little problem because her husband sold their Visa stock. They had a lot of Visa stock one day before Visa was announced that Visa is being sued by the Department of Justice. Think of that. Nancy Pelosi sold vast amounts of Visa stock one day before the big lawsuit that we all read about a few days ago was brought against Visa. You think it was luck? I don't think. She should be prosecuted. Nancy Pelosi should be prosecuted for that. And she should also be prosecuted for J6 because she turned down 10,000 or any number she wanted, soldiers or National Guard. And I hope you all read John Solomon and what John Solomon wrote 2 days ago, because if you read it, you'd see that Donald Trump did absolutely nothing wrong. It's a scam.
So John Solomon runs the website Just the News, and it wasn't just what John Solomon wrote, it's actually what he published. He was able to get his hands on official transcripts from the government, transcripts of phone calls that President Trump himself was on. And we now have evidence that Trump did request boots on the ground to secure the Capitol on January 6th. It turns out that the Pentagon circumvented. They actually went against President Trump because, according to the Pentagon, boots on the ground would be, quote, bad optics. And, we're supposed to have a peaceful transfer of power. And they allegedly thought that the optics would be bad. And so that's why they didn't approve additional security. Well, obviously, it turns out history proved President Donald Trump was right. I've said all these years, I don't think January 6th was an insurrection. I truly believe it was a riot that could have been prevented with the proper security measures. And we now have evidence that the government, the Pentagon, directly disobeyed, went around President Trump. Well, going back to the insider trading, according to the New York Post, Nancy Pelosi's husband sold more than $500,000 worth of Visa stock just weeks before the DOJ announced its antitrust lawsuit. So the DOJ announced its lawsuit against Visa earlier this week on Tuesday, and, the Pelosi's just so happened to sell the stock right in time. And what do you know it? The stock started tanking the moment that the DOJ announced its lawsuit. Their stock has been down the last 5 days, and when I took a look at the futures, things still aren't looking good. So was this just coincidence, or is there something fishy, suspicious going on here? Well, the Post has more details. There's this X account called Nancy Pelosi Stock Trader, and Christopher Josephs, the guy who runs it, has been tracking basically all the trades that they make that are publicly available. And he published that on July 3rd, months ago, months before this was even announced. Paul Pelosi had sold 2,000 shares of Visa, and on the low end worth $500,000, on the high end worth $1 million. The Pelosi's are so good at trading that, according to the Washington Post, investors are now copying what politicians are doing. Specifically, investors are copying what Nancy Pelosi is doing because she just so happens, to be so good at trading that she is now worth $250 million. That's according, by the way, to the Washington Times. Lawmakers have been, ridiculed for insider trading or allegations of insider trading. And as you can see here, based on the headline, they're laughing all the way to the bank. Pelosi's net worth, according to the Times, $250 million off of a public servant salary. How does that happen? Well, even NPR confirmed what the Washington Post reported. Stock traders are trying to beat the market by copying lawmakers, and Nancy Pelosi is the number one example. So that's why Donald Trump said what he said. And again, dear Democrats, lawfare, once you open that can of worms, it can go in any direction. So be careful what you wish for. Apparently, Senator Josh Hawley, is trying to introduce legislation, this was back in 2022, to attempt to ban insider trading in Congress. From what I understand, there actually is a bill, or at least outlines of a bill, and that process has currently stalled on the House floor, but hopefully, it'll get revived at some point. Now, I want you to compare this to President Trump. Pelosi has been mired in controversy, and there have been accusations about insider trading, but President Trump, in 2016, he actually gave his companies to his son. This was according to the BBC. Trump hands over business empire to sons. And in fact, he did that well before he even won the election. This happened, according to the Washington Post, in June. The election obviously was in November, and that, of course, was months before inauguration. So, he really went above and beyond to make sure that there were no conflicts of interest, to make sure that his hands were clean of any business dealings before he took office. So I think there we have a tale of two politicians and a tale of two different financial backgrounds. And, I think their actions speak for themselves. Now, speaking of finances, Dave Ramsey is one of the most influential financial experts out there. And he apparently put out an invitation for both President Trump and Kamala Harris to interview them, to have a chat with them. Well, obviously, he didn't hear anything from Kamala Harris, but he did hear back from Donald Trump, and this is what Dave Ramsey had to say.
Hey guys, well, our team reached out to both Vice President Harris's camp and President Donald Trump's camp about the opportunity to sit down and talk about ideas. Now, keep in mind, what happens in your house is more important than what happens in the White House. But I'm standing in Trump Tower, and I just finished interviewing President Donald Trump. It's a great interview. You're going to want to see it. We'll post it next week.
And I think, we have a president who is literally dodging bullets, and then we have a vice president who is dodging interviews. I mean, Dave Ramsey, from what I understand, is not like a snarky journalist. He's not, a gotcha question type of person. Like, he probably just legitimately wants to know about Kamala Harris's plan. And of course, he would probably have actual tough questions for her, but he seems like a nice guy. And I just don't know why Kamala Harris is still running away from interviews. Well, actually, I know why. I think we all know why. But I think this right here, there are so many things that on their own, I don't think are going to win Trump the election. But, Dave Ramsey is not a politician, which I would expect, his audience not to be political junkies. I'm sure, don't get me wrong, I'm sure a large portion of his audience loves the news. And I'm sure, there are those of you out there who listen to Dave Ramsey too. But, by having Trump on his radio show, on his podcast, I think that's going to reach a slice of the electorate who maybe wouldn't necessarily tune into the news. So that could be really influential. That could be another straw, another, piece of momentum behind Trump's campaign. Well, Nathan Wade, Fani Willis's ex-lover, whatever he is, whatever the story is. I mean, I've heard every permutation from her. I think we all know what's going on there. Well, he has been served a subpoena, and apparently he is nowhere to be found. So they were trying to issue this subpoena last Friday, so almost a week ago, and they still haven't found him at all. At first I thought, I saw this on Fox News, and I thought maybe they're exaggerating it, just for the TV, but no, apparently this is real. I'll show you the Fox News clip, then I'll show you some articles.
The House Judiciary Committee, which is investigating Georgia DA Fani Willis, needs Wade to testify at a hearing tomorrow on their love affair. But no one can find the guy. They're trying to serve him, but he's flown the coop, and now the U.S. Marshals are in a manhunt to track him down. Have they checked?
Yeah, so according to Newsweek, House GOP says it can't find Nathan Wade amid Fani Willis probe. Now, the biggest update, though, really comes from the AJC, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. They're like the big paper in Atlanta. A Republican-led congressional committee is attempting to subpoena Nathan Wade, but so far has been unable to locate the former Fulton County special prosecutor, according to a spokesperson for the panel. Now, here's where things get really interesting. According to the Daily Beast, the House Judiciary Committee says that this situation is, quote, extremely unusual because this year alone, they've actually issued 100 subpoenas, and they've been able to issue those subpoenas without issue. Apparently, Nathan Wade is the first time this year in over 100 subpoenas where they've had issues, not being able to locate the person, not being able to actually deliver the subpoena. So, are they just unable to find him? Is he just coincidentally not answering his cell phone? Maybe his phone is broken? No, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens tomorrow and whether or not he shows up, whether or not, he has an excuse like his dog ate his phone or something. We'll find out. Well, speaking of bad homework excuses, there are more clips from that CNN segment, the CNN segment of them interviewing school children about Trump and Kamala. Here is another clip that is recently going viral that I thought y'all would get a kick out of.
It'd be good for us to have a black woman as president for the first time in history.
Yeah.
But my vote's kind of still on Trump.
My vote's still kind of on Trump. I think, obviously, a few of you pointed this out last video. Kids do repeat what they hear. But it is promising to, hear these kids saying these things. It's a reflection, of their family, of their parents, and then also of themselves. I do think children are good judges of character, just on a gut instinct level. Well, Hurricane Helene is officially a Category 4. She, as I'm making this video, is probably making landfall right now in Florida, or on the verge of making landfall. This footage was from earlier today in Tampa. And this was before she even made landfall. Just absolutely stunning. Bridges apparently just being swallowed in water. But I thought the most impressive footage is this. This is from NASA. This is from the International Space Station. And what we're looking at is a view of Helene from space. And for my viewers in Florida, I just wanted to say we're all thinking of you. We all hope you're safe. I wanted to specifically take this time to give you a shout out at our Jules 1083 in Florida. Right now, we could use some prayers. Here's another one. EXO, Miss Warrior EXO. I live on the Florida Panhandle. I really hope, from what I understand, it sounds like the Panhandle is, part of that direct path. So I hope you're definitely safe. Watching from the west coast of Florida, currently experiencing 60 miles per hour wind gusts, which is crazy. Lily, I again hope you're safe. All of you, really. Patty, I live in Florida. And then last but not least, Love in the Villages, thank you from Florida. I'm sure there are more of you from Florida, but those were the only comments I could find that specifically called it out. And if I left you out, no offense. It was not intentional. I just wanted to take some time at the end of the show. I get so many comments, and I try to, I've been trying to think of ways that I can acknowledge that I've read them. So I just wanted, with a natural disaster happening in Florida right now, I just thought that was a way to bring attention to what's going on, and then let you guys know specifically that I'm thinking of you and praying for your safety and everyone else down there. As always, this is my commentary and analysis, and I would love to know yours in the comments below. What do you think about Trump's statement about prosecuting Nancy Pelosi over insider trading? I haven't really seen traction of this from the mainstream media. I thought that they would, for sure call him a dictator or a fascist, or, accuse him of lawfare. But I think perhaps they're avoiding it because they know that this is an issue in Congress, especially among Democrats, and maybe they don't want to shine a light on it because it would expose what's going on. And I think if more people knew what was going on, or the allegations about what's going on, I think people would be upset and would want answers and would want those bills, like the one that Senator Hawley is pushing, to ban insider trading in Congress. That is just what is happening from my point of view, and I'd love to hear what's going on in your world. If you haven't already, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me in the algorithm to reach more viewers like you. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.